everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV, episode 49. A really powerful show today. Dr. Pompa stumbled upon something that I believe is really going to help a lot of people today, and we're going to discuss diet variation, which is a new term we believe and coined. It may be out there somewhere, but I haven't found it. Diet variation for weight loss and fat burning, and it's a great strategy. It's actually historic in how individuals in the past used to go through times of fasting and eating and surplus. Dr. Pompa, this is a hot topic, and you've tested it not only on animals, but on some of your clients to get great health and weight loss breakthroughs. Let's shoot the show today. David Asarno is in the house with us as well as our co-host. Dr. Pompa, what do you think about this topic?
Love this topic. You know, I have to admit, I did just stumble upon this, and I'll tell you that story. But you know, this is actually, if you watch the end of the year show, or I guess the beginning of the year show, I don't remember what episode it was, maybe 46, can't remember. But, we don't remember these episodes. But I basically recapped what I believe were the 5, you know, exciting shows, right, of last year. And so if you haven't watched it, watch it. But this was one of them. I just didn't get into details, and I did say that there would be a future show, so here we are. You know, kept up with my promise. So diet variation, you know, what is it, and why does it work so good for not just weight loss, but although that is how I, you know, really discovered this works, but it really works just for all-around health, because my patients are like, oh my gosh, my energy levels are so much better, you know, and they go through a litany of different things that have changed. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is how it came about. Through ketosis, and many of you read some of my keto articles and how to use this diet as a tool, right? It's not necessarily a diet someone can stay on forever, although some people genetically can. But in that, we have my 5-1-1 rule, which is a way of, you know, doing 1 day of fasting in a week and then 1 day where you actually carb load. And it worked. You know, it kept the body out of thinking it was starving. It mixed it up, and we know that it works. And that has been used before. Other people have tried different combinations. And then we even have intermittent fasting. We talk a lot about that. So here's what happens, though. I get these people, and they get into ketosis, and I guarantee you people watching this said, Dr. Pompa, you know, I tried to get into ketosis. I read all your articles. I watched your shows. And yet I was unable to get my keto numbers between 0.5 and 5. And by the way, that is nutritional ketosis. And those watching that have no idea what I'm talking about ketosis, I apologize. We do have articles on that, but I'll say it this way very simply. It's when we shift your cells over to becoming really relying mostly on fat for energy. See, most cells in the body, they can use glucose, they can use fat, they can use glucose, fat. But when you go into keto adaptation, you burn fat for energy, and ketones are the byproduct of that, and they fall in a blood range of 0.5 to 5. That is called nutritional ketosis.
Healthy ketosis.
What's that? Nutritional ketosis.
Yeah, but it's healthy. Like there's a negative out there on ketosis because of insulin resistance, right?
Right. Diabetics can literally not produce any insulin, and therefore they would go into diabetic ketosis, where that number would be, I mean, even up to 50. You know, so that would be
very dangerous, yeah.
A scary situation. And this is nutritional ketosis. You fall in that range. This means now that you're utilizing more fat for energy. And why is that important? Because fat burns so clean, we can downregulate cellular inflammation. Read the articles in a nutshell so you can follow this conversation. That's what it's about. Okay, so here's what happens. The healthy, normal, average person should, within 2 weeks to 4 weeks, adapt. And their numbers should become between 0.5 and 5. That means now you're this fat-burning efficient machine, right? People lose weight. One of the first things that happens is the brain works better. You know, all of a sudden the brain loves these ketones, and the brain starts functioning better. So, look, it's been around since the 1920s as a tool to fix the brain. You know, it works, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. We have people who don't go into ketosis. So why is this? We know that certain toxic conditions don't go into ketosis. Certain hormone conditions struggle to get in. So after literally 4 months, and some patients even 5 months of trying, zero weight loss, still not getting into ketosis, every once in a while a little number will go up. Well, I would say, okay, let's go back to the regular cellular healing diet, okay? And we will just see what happens. So we put them back on a regular cellular healing diet. By the way, the diet that they were on before I put them in keto adaptation, and they weren't losing weight, and they weren't having results. Obviously, one of the reasons why I shifted their diet in the first place. I put them back on that diet that didn't cause weight loss, and now all of a sudden they report to me, I've lost 10 pounds. Well, it's the same diet as we were before. What changed? I don't know. Keep eating higher healthy carbohydrates, more vegetables, berries. Let's see what happens. And sure enough, they do lose the 10 pounds, but then the weight loss stops again. So, of course, I think to myself, well, let's go back into ketosis, see what happens. Put them back into ketosis. Lo and behold, they start losing fat again, and they end up getting in ketosis the second time around. Why is this happening? Okay, that is what we call diet variation. So meaning that we changed up the diet. So this became something that
made you turn your cell phone off. Is that what happened?
Sorry.
But I do have a question, though. I mean, it was a good time to pause.
Yeah, that distracted me.
So you've spurred a few questions to me because when you were explaining this to me, I actually spent the weekend with Dr. Pompa. I think I did the show live from. Did we do the show live from your house on Friday? We did. The Cellular Healing episode 48. But the question is to me, it's like, okay, someone is in weight loss resistance and they've tried the ketogenic diet, your 5-1-1 rule, your 2-2-2 rule. They're doing everything right. They just can't get into ketosis. So then when they make that switch, eating more healthy carbs, right? Do you have a scientific reason why that eating, and now healthy carbs, we're not saying carb load, eating pasta, rice, all of this, but you're actually just saying eat more of a higher healthy carb diet, berries, nuts and seeds. What other types of foods, when you break into that, obviously I want to know that too, to shock the body or whatever it's doing to get them to go back into ketosis once they try that variation in their diet. Does that make sense, Dr. Pompa?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at ancient diets, they started, of course, in the wintertime. They were eating large amounts of fat, animals, etc., and they really relied on that. They didn't have vegetables. They couldn't go shopping in a place that a grocery store or
They didn't have Whole Foods back then? I thought they had a big blockade.
They had Kroger's.
Back then.
They had Kroger's, if you remember Kroger's.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That was
with
around
Fred Flintstone, yeah.
That was definitely around back then.
Flintstones.
But anyways, so they would eat mostly that. And then what happens come spring? Of course, they were so sick of buffalo, elk, and other meats, right, deer, that they gravitated to the nuts, seeds, and vegetables that were around. A higher carbohydrate diet, really. I mean, in today's terms, let's not kid ourselves here. I wouldn't call it a high carbohydrate diet. But in our terms from a ketosis, yeah, it was higher carbohydrate diet, but it was healthy carbs. But what would happen then is obviously there was a massive diet variation. Really, my theory of why this works is because, again, it's this adaptation, innate, inborn intelligence, this survival mechanism that when we have times of fasting and famine, we have times of more little, when we have times of this type of diet, switching over to this type of diet, the body instinctively, intuitively has to make those changes. And it does it by switching hormones. It does it by raising growth hormone. It does it by making these switches in the body. And oftentimes people are stuck. And when it makes this massive survival shift, I believe that it triggers something in the body to start that fat burning again. Just like the 5-1-1 rule. How come we could eat 20, 30, 40, 50 grams of carbs a day, and all of a sudden one day we load up with 200, 300 carbs, and the next day we're leaner? Because something hormonally shifts. Something tells that innate intelligence, we're okay now. Let's burn fat like crazy. Same thing happens. So you're on this diet where you're just fat, and the body somehow thinks it's in a starvation mode. Something hormonally it's doing to survive. And then all of a sudden, here comes the plenty. And all of a sudden now it says, let's burn, and it shifts on all these metabolic hormones. So it is this diet variation that really is key. So what does that tell us? It tells us that, first of all, I've been one to say, look, you can't pinpoint one diet on everybody, right? Genetically, we're all a little different. We utilize the cellular healing diet, high fats, in someone who is cellular inflamed, we need to fix the membrane. So it's a diet that some people will stay on their whole life. It's a diet that we put people on until we fix cellular inflammation. So, that can vary per person, right? There's certain things that transcend all cultures dietarily, but not every diet, is for everybody. But it tells us this. These people that say, hey, look, the vegan diet is the way to go, and they're on this vegan diet their whole life.
That's a good point.
That. Right. Yeah, I mean, this variation in diet, instinctively, intuitively, survival, it is good for the body.
Well, it's interesting you're talking about this, and what comes to me is that in working out, if you do the same workouts all the time, they stop working. And you got to do the high-intensity training. You need to up, down, up, down. You need to change things up. And to me, it sounds like this is very along the same lines, very much so.
It is, David. I mean, the body knows. We have to break it out of what we call homeostasis, where the body just kind of gets stagnant, almost stuck, if you will, and then we come in with a different workout, and whoa, you get sore the next day. You feel like, wow, what an amazing. I used to say when I would work out in different gyms, I would always get a better workout just because the angles of those machines were a little different. Things were a little different. That little variation in exercise made the workout that much more intense. So this is true also, for diet.
This is a huge, something we really haven't discussed, and I think it's a way to combat those people who say, do this diet, paleo all the way, only paleo, CrossFit, only CrossFit, I mean, then again, they do a lot of variation in CrossFit, so maybe that's not the best example, but so you have a vegan come and it's like, man, my life was transformed eating vegan. Well, of course, you did a diet variation, you got a massive benefit, but, some of your clients, Dr. Pompa, who were vegan their whole life are now sick because there's a downside to eating vegan or being vegetarian, but there's also a positive to eating raw or vegan or, going vegetarian for a season in your life. Because you might have been in that foraging time, there wasn't any meat, and you're just living on herbs and, vegetables for a season, but long term, can break the mindset. That's not how humans lived. They did diet variation, especially for certain genetic types. Maybe that might not be across the board, but I know for like someone European like me, we're still from that tribal nature. Folks, seasonal, seasonal eating, and things like that. So that's really, really an important way to explain that. Someone's like, hey, yeah, vegan's great, but you may want to do some diet variation because that's what our bodies are designed for.
Well,
so,
exactly.
and versus the naysayers too. Don't eat vegan; it's bad for you. Well, maybe not.
Well, it is true. People get stuck on, let's say, a vegetarian or a vegan diet because what do? They go, yeah, well, they were eating this horrific grain-fed meat diet, right? So they take meat out of their diet, variation, and they go vegan or vegetarian. And, of course, they get this, oh, my God, I feel so much better. I lost weight. That's great. And then they stay there because it worked. Now they end up with other deficiencies, perhaps.
Or the opposite. Let's smash the meatitarians. The people just eat meat all the time, and their genetics aren't for that. There's maybe Eskimos are fat, high fat, and meat. But
and actually, a long time ago.
Well, Native Americans, I don't know if that's Eskimos. That's proper, isn't it?
I have no idea.
If I offended anyone, I'm sorry. I just, I'm trying to, have a great conversation here. Don't want to, offend anyone. But that I just know that people who live north, there's not a lot of vegetables. Let's be honest, right?
One of the
My
things
wife's from Canada.
One of the things we spoke about on an episode much earlier or last year was exactly this topic. If you look at the genetics of where we're from, the foods that were available, why up in the north, in the Nordic areas, do they eat a lot of high-fat fish, high-fat foods? Why? Because of the lack of sun. So, I mean, a lot of this, ties back to things that we've talked about in previous episodes.
Well, David, I mean, when we look at where people are from, that definitely will gravitate people to the diet they're genetically more, better
adapted,
with. Yeah. Some people do way better with higher fat diets. But again, we can use a vegetarian diet, for example, as a tool to simplify eating for cancer patients, but do you stay there? I argue no, unless it's really your genetic diet. I believe no matter what, diet variation helps. And again, our genetics are just tuned for that, for seasonal eating. So I had a conversation with my vet randomly. It was just this random thing that she was looking at our dog, and she was saying she has a diet called the wild dog diet, and it's based on this this principle. And she said, animals are meant to eat seasonally. They're meant to have this variation in their diet. So there are times where they're eating more vegetables, roots, etc. And then there's times where the meat is plenty. She said when animals don't get this variation in their diet, it creates health problems. It's a seasonal way of eating. So, of course, it's the same with humans. I mean, of course it is. So I found it. So I started reading about this, in the animal kingdom, and I found that it is in fact true. And I was in Wyoming, and I, was able to look at the history there, and realize that this seasonal eating, is a survival mechanism. Even the Eskimos, even the people who live up north, there still is massive variation in their diet. Now, I would argue that they're always going to do better on higher fat, even a higher protein diet. But even their protein amounts go up and down.
Yeah.
So, again, I mean, I know that there's truth to this. I mean, again, we make the argument, that certain diets are going to be better for other. I am definitely better on a high-fat diet, moderate protein, low-carb diet. That works for my genetics. But when I vary it around, so I'm in the summertime, you all know I go into ketosis, and I thrive on that diet. I can ride and exercise for hours and hours and hours. But now what I've done now is I've forced more vegetables and more things. And by the way, I don't even love vegetables. I gravitate to the meat on my plate, trust me, and butters and cheeses and things. So I'm still eating those things because I do so well on fat. But now I've introduced more. I'm eating more lentils in my diet. I'm eating more quinoa in my diet, brown rice. I've even, things like that. And of course, I'm, eating more vegetables. So, I'm forced my carbohydrate intake up. And, I'm just varying my diet once again. In the summertime, I'm going to go back into a ketotic state. So again, I'm still on a diet that really works for me, but obviously the variation has been magical. Warren, I said to you before, and y'all know I'm a, not a big guy, right? Genetically, I'm very small bone. And I say this not to brag or boast, I say this to prove a point, but, the other day when I actually had a spotter in the gym, I put up 80-pound dumbbells on an incline press. That's a lot for a little guy, especially for someone, literally, I can, far press way more than my body weight. And again, I had a shift when I went into ketosis, but then I went into this diet and I saw this amazing strength gain. It just shows me, the proof is that my body adapted very well. But I know this, it will stagnate, it will plateau. And then when I shift it again, I'm going to, good things are going to happen again. So really, really neat topic, really is.
Yeah, and I think it's true. I think, you just proved, your point why that's the case. So you're looking back in history, you're looking at your genetics, and you're seeing, hey, this is historically, what worked for people. This is how their lives lived, and their bodies adapted. They put on more muscle, they put on more fat, at certain times, during their seasonal cycle. But I think bodybuilders innately kind of did that. Bodybuilders, and to just say, personal fitness people that are really focused on that. I know a lot of times, some of the personal trainers that I work with and we work with. Can you please turn that off? What they do is they usually eat more for a season, because they say, man, I start eating, I'm eating essentially a zero sugar diet, and they get really lean, but they start getting weak, right? At first, they see a good benefit, they lean down, but then after they're on it for a while, they say, I'm just getting weak, so I get to go back in and put in some healthy carbs. And most of these guys are eating, unhealthy rices and things like that. But however, they just blow up and they put on a ton of muscle. And they store that muscle, then they'll go on a cleaner diet, lean out again. But they, in those carb phases, when they put on weight, they're actually able to lift a lot more and they get a lot stronger. And I just see that in the gym when I'm just talking with these guys.
And here's one of the little animals that diet very eats raw. Cute. She's so cute. She's just a little adorable thing. Now Warren's gonna run and get Tula. You're gonna run and get your cats. We're gonna do all this stuff.
Tula, my wife was just in, but to the office here, but no Tula. She's in school.
All right, she got to go home.
And my cats aren't in my office right now.
Then you're gonna hear snarling and all this animal noise because the little girl there goes after Frendel, who's a little older and gets perturbed, and she goes and pulls his beard, and he goes, so, starts snarling and snarling. It's fun. But yeah,
so
no.
the wild dog diet, it works in dogs, works in
the wild dog diet. So we talked about animals. Gosh darn it, we got to bring one on the show. But yeah, so my wife will love that too. So she'll want everyone to watch this because her dog. She calls that one her dog, by the way. So that's all I should refer to my dog too. Anyways, where the heck was I? I got to see the dog does. I know where I was.
I was talking about the fitness trainers and how they do that as well.
Yeah, so it's neat though because I would have thought before I would go into these ketonic states. Didn't I tell you that that was going to happen? Sure enough, it's happening.
You knew it.
Before I go into these ketonic states, before I did that, it went into ketosis. If I went on as high of a carbohydrate diet as I'm eating now, and again, I'm eating healthy carbs. And folks, we're not telling you to go out and eat pizza. I mean, this is not, we're not telling you to eat toxic food. Okay, so we're saying vary your diet within healthy foods, right? If I did that before, I would have absolutely, gotten way more fat. My energy would have dropped. But this time it was a different shift. I believe it was because I came off that keto type of diet. So, just summary, I think you can vary your diet in a week's time, and I do that. There's days, like I said, I don't typically eat until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's my first meal. So I fast through the night, and that's intermittent fasting daily. And then there's some days I just go through and I just don't eat until dinner. I did that yesterday. So I did basically a 24-hour fast. And sometimes you can just go a whole day. I mean, even more than a 24-hour until the next day. So that's diet variation. It really is. You're fooling your body. And then, once a week, I eat even more carbs. Right now that's not as fun because I'm not into ketosis. That's more fun when you're actually, knocking your carbohydrate down to 20, 30, 40 grams a day, and then all of a sudden you eat 200. I mean, you want to talk about variation. So the point is, though, we can do variation for 3 or 4 months. We can do variation within a week. And I think that makes it makes it fun, but it works. It works. So I guess the message is if you've been stuck in the same diet that may in fact have worked for you or even working for you, I still encourage you to shift it up with other foods. How much fat you're getting, how much protein. It's really it is a neat thing to do and watch work. I mean, it works. I mean, you should hear the results. I mean, it's really fun. I know that there's so many people out there that some of them have even got into ketosis. And this is another client that I had. Got into ketosis and still wasn't losing weight. Meanwhile, it looked like she should be. She keto adapted, a fat burner, and yet the pounds weren't moving. Took her out of ketosis, put her on, like I said, I had her juicing green juices, right? I mean, just, the good stuff. We had her, blending, vegetables, salads, things like that, eating more berries, pushed it up, lo and behold, she felt better. Weight loss, minimal, but she actually dropped some pounds, felt better, and then moved her back into ketosis. Now she loses weight. It's neat to watch. It really is.
And it's hormone manipulation. I mean, really what you said, Dan, is you're manipulating hormones, you're shocking your body into changing its hormones up, and weight loss, it's a hormone issue. Energy is a hormone issue. Your thyroid puts out hormones for energy. Your adrenal glands. It's all hormone manipulation. And I had an important point that you said there, Dan. I wanted to, mention that. But hormone manipulation.
It'll hit.
Oh, the other side of this too. I mean, you said you start juicing and grinding up all the lettuce and fruits and vegetables and whatever else that you had on the berries, not oranges and bananas, but bad. It'll drive up your insulin, glucose, add weight. But it's a digestion issue too, because you're essentially there's so many hormones that release through your gut. If you do a juice fast, for instance, maybe there was some gut healing that needed to take place. Maybe your body was wasting so much energy, it really didn't have enough energy to break down all those heavy proteins and stuff in your body, and you just juiced for a week, and it rested the gut, and the gut got healthier. Maybe it was a nutrient depletion issue. So there's some of the gut things in there, and there's some, another tip I would say is, do some juicing, 3-4 days, Dr. Pompa, just like in that situation. It could have been a gut issue.
Well, it's funny you said that because a lot of the clients I work with, they'll say, well, I don't do well on a high-fat diet. Well, it's because their gallbladder, it's called hepatic, meaning liver, biliary, bile, sludge, meaning toxic, right? Hepatic biliary sludge builds up because their detox pathways are backed up. And the show before this one, we kind of talked about that process that we use in detoxification, right? Making the cell up here, causing the toxins to leave the cell and make their way to the liver. Oftentimes we have to move it from the liver, out of the body, right? So, what happens is their liver and their gallbladder gets so sludged up, no wonder you can't digest fat. But meanwhile, it's the very thing that you need the most. These patients are fat, they need it so much for their brain and their cell membrane, and they can't eat it. So oftentimes people gravitate to the wrong diet because, like you said, Warren, they have a digestive issue, they have a liver issue, a gallbladder issue, and then we fix that, we help that purge out, then we start bringing in and we ramp them up on a higher fat diet. But in the meantime, sometimes we have to put them on more, vegetables and things like that. So
and this is a massive 180-degree topic, Dr. Pompa, and I'll cite two examples, that we just did. We were sitting in that hotel, and this lady, this young professional, saying, "I want the skinny low-fat latte or the soy latte." When they get, "Do you want whole milk?" "No, I want the soy. I want the low-fat."
She actually said gluten-free, sugar-free, and it was the fat-free. Gluten-free,
Yeah.
sugar-free, fat-free latte. I'm like, oh my God. So
this is an educated, you could tell, like a high-end professional getting it done, in the world, making a difference, and man, just doing it 180 wrong.
It's marketing, and it's what's going out there in the mainstream media.
That's what we're doing right now. We're marketing for truth,
But they're marketing for their they're not marketing for health, and it's people think that they're doing the right thing. But by the way, I'm listening to all this, and I'm coming from the outside. If I was not sitting on every show with you guys, and I wasn't entrenched in your world, I'd say, oh my gosh, where do I go first? What do I do? One of the things that this brings to mind, and the importance of having a coach and having a health coach in with you to help you along the way, because you brought up some really good points here that why some things work for some people. Where do I begin? And if someone is looking for a coach, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, we have, obviously, I've trained, and I say we because all of us have helped these doctors in a different way, but doctors all around the country. I think we have 60 doctors approximately, trained around the country that understand cellular healing and cellular detox. We just did the Pain Summit, and we have thousands of people commenting and watching it, and I talked about cellular healing and cellular detox, and we got more positive comments than anybody. Says nobody's talking about this. I just read 3 or 4 more testimonies this morning, and nobody is talking about it, but unfortunately that's where the truth lies. Yeah, I mean, getting coaching from someone who understands, these topics is huge, and you do need coach, David. I mean, it's a lot of people that, my dog just almost wiped this whole.
I know, we see your screen going like this behind you.
It's like, rolling around on the ground, These dogs follow me everywhere, man, so it's like life with them, they're always going to be here. If you see me on these shows, and if I'm here, pretty much there's a dog somewhere in eye shot.
Or two, yeah.
Yeah, or two, right, exactly. And if we get a cat in here, then we're in big trouble because the dog and the cat will go at it. But anyways, I mean, in a good way, they wrestle. So yeah, I mean, you do need coaching, David, because like I said, a lot of people, I mean, the cellular healing, the cellular detox, we use specific types of chelators within that detoxification system that we talked about last week, and it works. I mean, cellular detox works. I mean, it works. It's really the only thing that actually works, and it's taken us years to really develop this system and how we utilize specific chelators, whether it's biotoxins, heavy metals, molds, Lyme disease, standing dog, is really what you need a practitioner for and a coach. And even some of this diet stuff and, coaching you through that. I believe everyone needs a coach. I mean, look, I have 3. Our tennis game or our golf game. It's like, how much more important for your health. It's obviously vital in my mind.
Oh, you're my health coach, Dr. Pompa, which is nice.
That's
You know, for all
amazing.
of you, be jealous. Dr. Pompa is writing up my new year health plan. We've been working on it. Actually, I have it right down here in a folder. Some testing we're doing and some diet variation strategies, some detox, the new detox system we talked about last week on the show, episode 48. I'm going to be doing that more consistently, not just sporadically, but on a scheduled basis. And if it's not written down, it's not real, guys. So you really need to, if you're going to do some of these things, put it down on paper, what you're going to do, when you're going to eat, you know, create that schedule, make it real in your life. It'll make a massive difference. This is a great topic, Dr. Pompa. Last night I was out to dinner, you know, again, and, you know, I know we need to end, it's 10:30, but just think it was important, you know. I'm out with a, you know, middle-aged couple, 55 to 57, something like that, her husband, and they're my neighbors, and they were talking about his mom and dad, you know, are so fearful of heart disease, and they have this cardiologist, you know, doctor that has put so much fear into them. They said that they're literally brainwashed, low fat, and not eating anything. So they barely eat. They're frail. You know, his mom is weak. She has no energy. She's 100 pounds, but she's so scared. And they take their cholesterol pill, their statin drug, like religiously, you know, and they believe that that's going to keep them alive and away from heart disease. And, you know, and these folks don't eat a clean diet, but they're even from they're wise people. They like, she should be eating a stick of butter, you know, a stick of real butter like our great grandparents did. And, you know, we try to explain to her that her mom and dad ate a high-fat diet, and they were healthy and never had heart disease and died a natural death. So what are you doing? You're sick and miserable taking your statin drug, eating a calorie-restrictive, you know, diet, eating bad carbs, low fats, and, you know, bad margarine,
You know,
and they're sick. So it's an epidemic. You know, for us, it might seem, you know, normal. Of course you'd eat this way. The science says so, but the world is fearful and scared because it does drive those drug sales.
Well, they listen to those experts. You know, they will set aside common sense in things that they know, right? But the experts are telling them to take these medications. The experts are telling them that if they don't, they'll die. The experts don't even believe in cause and effect. How do I know that? And that some of the top cardiology units, you know, in hospitals around the country. Phil and I had this conversation yesterday. There's McDonald's and fast food, literally, right in the same building. Now look, if the experts realized cause and effect, they would absolutely have a problem with that, but they don't, because they really believe it's just down to bad luck, you know, and genetics. Simply bad luck. You got heart disease, heart attack, and genetics, but these pills will keep you alive. Look, we could go on a whole other subject. I'll get fired up and, you know, very angry. You know, because people are, that they're starving their brain of the very thing that makes it work, cholesterol and fat, right? You know, oh boy, you know, that's a whole nother show, you know, of looking at, you know, what the experts say and who are the experts.
See, now you've got me craving an avocado. Good
Yeah,
everyone should get off the show right now. Go get an avocado. Go to your local grocery store. Avocados are easily to find. Get yourself a big avocado. Maybe put an egg in it. Stick it in the oven. And have yourself an avocado egg breakfast or intermittent fasting mid-after-day lunch.
All right. Well,
that's my health tip.
Vary your diet. Go 180, man. 180 degrees opposite of what everyone else is saying. That's for sure.
Share truth. Be bold.
If everyone's making a right, make a left. Tell my kids all the time it's typically the right way.
Thanks, Dr. Pompa. Thanks, David. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, Warren. Bye-bye.
Bye.